I'd like to just present myself. My name is Munya. I know you just saw the intro, but some people might wonder, how do you pronounce that name? Well, it's Munya, and I'm going to be your moderator and host for today. I'm looking forward to a really great discussion today and hope to make this experience as valuable, as enjoyable, and as interactive as possible. Now, we know that it is a critical time for CFOs at the moment, and you know that better than I do, right? Inflation, everybody's talking about inflation, about interest rates. We just saw the Federal Reserve raising the cost of borrowing. We are seeing the Bank of England also make a decision on interest rates today. We are talking about the war of talent. We're talking about skills shortages, and then, of course, the whole, journey of digitally transforming the organization as well in these volatile times. So it is not an easy time, and it's definitely not a predictable time, but this is the world we live in. And according to actually best-selling author Ram Charan, which you might have heard of, you might have read some of his books, or maybe you've seen him speak live at a conference, it's a time for CFOs to use muscles they may not have flexed before, or maybe flexed for a while, actually. So today's going to be interesting to hear from the speakers and panelists on what muscles we have to build, or you as CFOs, because I'm not a CFO, but I speak to a lot of CFOs. What do you have to flex? What muscles do you have to build on to make it through these times and to build what we would call the CFO of the future? We don't know what the future is going to be like, but it's great if we are prepared for it, right? So we're going to kick off the conversation today with a conversation on how to master forecasting with speed and with accuracy. And we're going to have Amanda Fisher, actually, who's also known as the cash flow queen. She's going to kick things off today. And then we're going to talk about robotic process automation. We know that CFOs are planning, or most CFOs actually are planning to accelerate digital spending this year and digital technologies. So Brian Kalish is going to give us a clearer picture on RPA and how it can really transform the finance office and add value. And maybe also where it does and doesn't make sense, right? And to round off the day, we are going to talk to two CFOs, and I met them a couple of weeks ago. They are the nicest CFOs I've ever met. I apologize to those CFOs I've met before. These are some really nice and down-to-earth people who are really looking forward to sharing their insights with you on how to make better decisions with data. We'll have Anwar Mirza here from FedEx Express, and also Lindsay Head from Public Relations. So I'm really, really looking forward to those conversations. Now, one thing that I'd like to remind you of is that we want this discussion to be as interactive as possible. This is not a lecture, even though it might look like it. It's not. At least my preference is that it's not. We want you to ask questions. We want you to get involved as much as possible, as much as is humanly possible in a virtual event like this. So make sure you ask your questions and post them into the Q&A tab that we have, into the chat function that will appear after or throughout every keynote, and there will be a dedicated Q&A session after each keynote. And of course, you can also ask lots of questions throughout the panel. I actually encourage you to do so because it makes for a much more rich and interesting conversation as well. So make sure you do that. And last but not least, in terms of logistics, and then I promise we'll get started, is I want to remind you of a new format that we have here at Management Events called the Mega Stage Virtual Event, which will be happening in November, so still quite a while to go. On November 17th, we will have Simon Sinek here, and I think most of you probably have heard of him. I read his book back in 2013, I think, about Start With Why, and he is going to hold a keynote to talk about how great leaders inspire others to take action. So make sure you register for that as well. Now, let us talk about cash, and more specifically, let's talk about cash flow forecasting, which has become a little bit of an art these days. I don't think I have to mention why. You know why, right? So many changes, so much uncertainty, and it's very difficult to forecast these days. So probably more like nowcasting, which is what our next speaker is going to talk about. She is a CFO, she's a leading expert in cash flow education and an internationally recognized finance professional, and she also has lots of books that she wrote. Her latest best-selling book is called Strangled by the Numbers, and it's very popular with people. So please welcome, calling in from Australia, so I have no idea what time it's over there, I'm sure she'll let us know, cash flow queen Amanda Fisher on the hard truth about the way we forecast cash flow.